Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 147.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Guess who? Mary Catherine Johnson here, and I have with me today Stacey Brown Randall. Now, she is the creator of the Growth by Referrals program, and I think your ears perked up at that, right? Because we have all looked at referrals in our business. We would rather massage and take care of customers who are going to bring us other people like them. So I think we want to talk to Stacey about this and find out what's going on. But hey there, Stacey, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I am fan-stinkin-tastic. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day, and I'm sitting here talking to you with my two pups kind of lounging next to me. Let's hope nobody comes to the door so that they bark like crazy. And how could it be anything other than an amazing day, right?
Absolutely. I appreciate the time to spend some time with you.
Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Yes. So, all right, we got to start where we start. We need to know a little bit more about you. Tell us, we call it a once upon a time story. So tell us your story. How did you get into this whole gig, this whole thing of parenting and business? Which one came first?
It's a very interesting story. And actually they started at the same time. I gave notice at one of my corporate jobs, and I was 4 weeks pregnant and did not know it.
Oh, well, so
Yes.
you gave notice for some other reason.
Right. So I was leaving to join a company where I was going to be a partner. And I was leaving the comforts of the W-2 and I was going out on my own. And even though I was joining this partnership and was pregnant and did not know it. And it was before I left the company. I obviously at that point knew I was pregnant and was still going to go and do it. And my parents thought I was nuts and my husband is nothing but supportive. And I was with this partnership for a year before I decided I kind of like calling the shots myself. And I've got a 4-month-old and I can do this. So I actually, at the end of 2008, actually launched my first company. Unfortunately, 4 years later, 2 children later, that business failed.
Oh, boy.
And yes, so I had to go back and get a corporate job. And that was the most miserable 15 months of my life, and not because it was a bad company. It was a great company. It was wrong for me. And so I knew if I ever got a chance to go back out on my own that I was going to do it better because I don't want to have to work for anybody else again. So I've never known running my own business without having children. I always fantasize about that. I do always fantasize. What would it look like to run my own business without babies? They're not babies anymore, but without children.
Yes.
And so that's never happened for me, and that's okay. But so I did. I started my second business a couple of years ago, and I took the lessons learned from that first failure. And now we are 3 children instead of 2. And when I kind of look at, the trajectory of my life, things are supposed to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I am where I am because I went through that business failure and I can help my clients. 80% of my coaching clients are working parents. And so, or they own businesses and they're working parents. And I know I can uniquely help them because I have been right in the trenches, right where they are in terms of running a business with children and having a spouse who runs 2 businesses on his own as well. In addition to that, obviously having a business failure that I don't want anyone else to go through.
Right. Well, and I have to stop right there, and I have to start picking that one apart because, let me just ask you a couple questions. So tell me about that first business. What was it?
It was an HR consulting firm.
Okay. I know a little bit about HR. And so who was your market? Who did you consult? What size business and what type?
So typically larger businesses, I have expertise in employee engagement and generational diversity. So I would tell my clients, don't ask me anything about the law. I know just enough to get you in trouble. Mm-hmm. I cannot do anything with comp and benefits. I don't know how to help you set up your health insurance and do open enrollment. Like my expertise was truly in understanding what engages employees and how you keep them around from a retention perspective. And then my other area of expertise was generational diversity, understanding how to get the generations to really be able to leverage the differences and use the commonalities to make a business just a better place to work. So it was a lot of larger company consulting. So I had clients like KPMG, BDO USA. I had the city of Charlotte, Snyder's Lance, and I did a range of different things for those companies. Sometimes it would be consulting, and I'd be in there for over a couple of years, and sometimes it would be just a series of workshops. But those are my two areas of expertise, and that was the business that I ran for those years.
Wow, fantastic. So you started it in 2008, which was the time when most other businesses were going down,
Yes.
that wonderful recession that was happening. But it makes sense because what you were teaching businesses how to do, which was retain the good people that they wanted and make sure they could maximize the use of that and connectivity of those people. So I can understand why you started it then and you actually got clients. Now, what happened? Why did it fail?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's what's interesting about that. Most people, when I tell them I started my business towards the end of 2008, so I clearly knew the country was in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So most people say, oh, that must have been, you probably just couldn't survive that. You probably just couldn't get out from under that. And I always laugh and I'm like, gosh, I wish that were the answer, because then I couldn't blame myself.
Right.
But the reality is I'm a grown adult and you need to take responsibility for things. And the reason why I started my own business at that moment is because I had a huge client who said, we really love what you do. And I know you're with this other company, but I think you can do this on your own. And I'm going to be your first client. Who doesn't start a business?
Well, duh.
Right.
That's nice. I've had one other person say, my people that I was working with said, you need to start charging for this. It's like, well, some people, I guess you guys just need to get smacked across the face a couple times in order to actually make a business.
Sometimes we do. And so it was funny because I was like, okay, I can do this. And so, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I was like, well, heck yeah, I'm supposed to be one. Everybody else is, right?
Right.
So, that's really why the company got started. And she signed a 1-year contract, which then turned into a 2-year contract. And it was almost 6 figures. And so that alone gave me this great foundational base. And I did what almost every other solopreneur or very micro small business owner does. I got busy doing the work.
Right.
I did not get busy building the business.
Right. You did everything. That's right.
Yep. And so I got busy doing the client work. And when that contract ended after almost 2 years, because my contact at that company moved on to another company, I was left like, wait, I have been spending 20 plus hours a week on you guys, and I haven't done anything else to cultivate any business. So I joined the entrepreneurial roller coaster, which is really not a fun ride. It's roller coaster may sound fun. This is not a fun ride. So this is, your stress goes up as you see your bank account go down because you do the work, and then you look around, you're like, wait, the work is over. Where's the next piece of business coming from?
Yes. Okay, so I see where you're going. I see how that's headed, and I'm so glad that you took that client and did the work. Obviously, that's what got you the client because you were good at what you did.
Right.
Then it sounds like you did not adapt from that roller coaster to try and smooth that roller coaster out. Is that right?
Right. I didn't focus on business development.
Right.
And that's when I tell them it's kind of like my secrets learned from business failure. And one of them is truly you have to touch business development every day. And when business is good, your how you touch business development can look different. And when business is not good, yes, it's more of a focus, but you can't bury your head in the work for 6 months and then raise your head up and look around and say, wait, where's the next client coming from? You're already dead in the water. And unfortunately, that client got me through my first 2 years. When that contract ended, here's the thing, getting new clients was never really my issue. I know how to close business, but it was having the process in place that where I had a pipeline of people to get business from. Right. And so I would get, in 2011, I've been like, 2009, 2011, I had more clients. That contract was done. I had more clients than I ever had before. In reality, 2 would be more than I'd ever had before.
Yeah, right.
I had more than that. Like I had lots of clients, and here's the second thing that happened to me. I had lots of clients, but they were nickeling and diming me. And what I didn't pay attention to was that the work that I was doing coming out of the recession now, 2010, the work I was doing was really becoming commoditized.
Right.
And I was up against some competition and I didn't pivot and I didn't think about how to scale. And that really, 2011 became the beginning of the end for me. And by the time, I got well into 2012, it was just time to hang it up. And I should not have let it go on as long as I did. I kept thinking I could save it. I kept thinking I don't want to be a failure. And so I made some decisions to keep going. And in reality, it doesn't get any better because I didn't do what I needed to do early on to save it. Now, could I have saved it? I mean, I'm an optimist. I think that I could have. Yeah. But I got to a place where I was just like, okay, this is what it is. And then I went on this journey for the next couple of years of not talking about it. And then I realized, and I call it, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I call it the Charlotte spin. But let's be honest, I don't care what city or town you're in. We all spin things to look better for the people who know us, for the community and for our reputation.
Of course.
Yes. Right. So I kind of spun it as I got this great opportunity to go be this chief talent officer. It was fantastic. How could I pass it by? In reality, I needed money. So I needed a job. And when I started talking about it and I said, look, my first business failed and here's what I learned. And here's why business number 2 that I have now is kicking the hiney of business number 1. It's because I'm doing these things different. And people started saying, can you coach me? Can you teach me that? What do you mean? And they resonated with me. And all of a sudden, I found that true place of living in your unique ability and having that value, because what I had gone through was actually like exactly what it was supposed to be, because now I help others that don't want to go through that.
Stacey, you could be basically just replace the name Stacey with Mary Catherine and you've got it. Yeah. No, seriously, I went through the exact same kind of situation, but with a totally different business. Held on for too long, tied my identity to that business, and would not say fail, because then it meant I failed. And I did exactly what you did. I finally restructured. I didn't shut it down. I restructured it completely, outsourced everything, sold all my equipment because it was a product-based business. Outsourced everything, sold all my equipment, and basically then took a deep breath and said, what next? And that's when this podcast was born. And that was, actually I did another little business in between then, but realized very quickly that wasn't what I wanted to do. And it almost happened at the same time. So it was around 2011 that I did that. And so here in 2013, this podcast is born, and exactly what I do is very similar, but with a totally different spin, in the sense that I help people find that true identity, or let go of the old one, so that they can free up not just their ability, but their mind, because it's all in our heads.
Yes.
Right? When we hold on to that, we just hold on to it and get so attached. And I'll tell you right now, how old are your kids?
So I have a 6-year-old and 2 8-year-olds, but they are not twins.
Okay.
Which I can explain in a minute, but go on.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody's calculating, going, okay, there's something else going on there, but let's go. All right. So your kids, 6 and 8, I guarantee you're going to go through the same situation, the same pivots, the same restructuring, the same scaling, the same everything, even an exit strategy with your family and kids, because mine are 15, soon to be 15, and just turned 18. And the 18-year-old, I am handling things and having conversations and letting go of things that I thought I had no clue I would be here. I had no clue that my kid would have his own car, that he would have his own business that I've helped him start, that he has a girlfriend, that he might go on a overnight trip for 2 days. Those things, when you have 6 and 8-year-olds, that is just not even in your, that's just your reality. That's a la la land. You're not even there, but you will get there. And you have to do the same exact things. So it starts in our heads, and we have to change that first. And then we look at, okay, once you change that, the rest of it is just mechanics. Really?
Yes.
Because then you look at it and go, well, duh, of course it makes sense to scale things. Duh, of course it makes sense to take myself out of just the work and work on business development. Of course it makes sense, because now we no longer identify as, like in your first business, I just do the work. I don't have to worry about going and getting clients. I know how to do the work. When you identify with just that and don't get out of that space in your head, and look at it from 10,000 feet instead of ground level, once you can look at it at 10,000 feet, you see it clearly. So we're doing the same thing, but from a totally different way. You're looking at coaching people on the structures, the mechanics, and what to do, which you still need to do. I also coach people on that too. But I start with the head and how to free yourself from that. But I went through the exact same thing. It's so crazy. I wonder how many of us went through that.
I'm sure there are so many, so many. And, I tell folks when they start coaching with me, I'm like, here's the thing. You bring your whole self to coaching. Yeah. You bring all your baggage that comes along. And I'm going to know more about you than probably people in your family.
Yep.
And because you're right, like I had a client actually up in Massachusetts that was going to start coaching with me. And we got on our first call and, he's trying to make a decision if he's going to go through a divorce. I'm like, well, time out, wait, stop. Yeah, I can't go into any mechanics with you until we figure out where that is going. And if all of our coaching sessions are about that decision, A, I'm not qualified. Right. And B, you're going to be paying money that you're going to get no results from because you're not in the right headspace to then focus on your business. And so you're right. I mean, and let's be honest, and all coaches know this. They may not all admit it, but we're all like our clients. Like we all have these things too. Yes. And so, sometimes we have to figure out the hard way as well. Right.
Definitely. So that brings us to, how do you have 2 8-year-olds, but they're not twins?
Yes.
I think that's a perfect segue. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think it's a great segue. So, one of my 8-year-olds, his name is Jacob. That's our biological son. And then Mackenzie is 6, and she's our biological daughter. And then about a year ago, it's just over a year ago, we took custody of my husband's nephew. So our nephew. And he happened to be 7 when we got custody of him. He's now 8. He will turn 9 in a few months. So in a few months, I'll be able to say I have a 9, 8, and 6-year-old, and that makes much more mathematical sense to people. But they're both in the same grade. So I have 2 third graders, 2 boys that are third graders, and obviously my daughter is in first grade. So we went last year overnight, literally overnight, from a 2-kid family to a 3-kid family, and just working through and not that your audience needs all the details or anything like that, but, when we got custody of our nephew, his name's Danny, when we got custody of our nephew, we were his 5th home. Oh. And so our family dynamic has just shifted and changed, and for the better. I'm not going to say it's easy, but for the better. And so, which is great. And we're happy and blessed that we have the ability to provide for him and to give him a life that he deserves.
Yeah. And, kudos to you, because that had to be a kind of a tough decision. Thinking about the other 2 and your whole family dynamic, but also thinking about what he's gone through and what you could possibly give him that could help him become a contributing, successful adult.
I think the way that you're absolutely right. I think the way the decision was made is that we didn't think about it at all. Like, I know this sounds, and I'm not saying I recommend this at all, but literally I came home from a girls' trip. I realized that we now did not know where he was. We knew he was in town. We just didn't know where he was staying. And I looked at my husband and I was like, nope, call tomorrow. We're going to get him. Yeah. And he goes, we are? I'm like, yep, we are. We have to. Yeah. And my husband was like, of course, we have to. And it was like 2 months later, we are sitting on the couch one night when all the kids are in bed. And my husband goes, we didn't talk about this at all.
Yeah, right.
I go, had we talked about it, we would have talked ourselves out of it. And that would have been the wrong thing. This is going to be harder than we could ever imagine. It's like running a business. If anyone ever told you running a business is easy, they're crazy. Yeah. It is so rewarding. So you do it and you get through it, the hard parts, and you love the pieces that you love. But had we thought about it, we would have been like, we have to learn about all kinds of things that we don't know about in terms of parenting a child that's, had some of the issues that he has. And so to that point, we didn't really talk about it because we knew in our hearts of hearts, we knew that God was leading us to make that decision. And so we just did it. But truthfully, we didn't talk about it. We didn't think about it. And we talked and thought about all those things after the fact. And then we just had to force ourselves to work through them.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually many times that's how you become parents anyway. Right?
That is true. Yes.
How many people really don't talk about that stuff and it just happens?
Yes.
And then you just got to deal with it. So
you really do. And it's funny, bringing Danny into our lives, my business that I have now, my coaching practice, was already heading in that direction of how do I scale my time? Mm-hmm. But because, as you know, as a coach, we trade dollars for hours, and I love that part of my business, and I'll never give that up. But we don't build wealth that way, and we don't help a lot of people that way. We just don't. Those are the two things. If you're a coach, more than likely you want to help a lot of people, and you only have so many hours in the day, and obviously you want to be able to make a good living. And so when Danny came into our house and I would get the call from the sitter because he would have a breakdown of why doesn't my mommy love me? And our babysitter was not equipped to deal with that. And I would pick up what I was doing and I would go home and I would deal with him and be with him because that's what I needed to do as his, I call him his mom. I call myself to him a mom number two. Like that was my responsibility. It was like this really reminding hard lesson that, my business needed the ability to sometimes live without me and have that ability to scale and some of that passive reoccurring income that it really needed outside of what I was doing. And so it's funny because it's actually one of the reasons why all of my online course and some of the stuff that I do around referrals has really taken off for me.
Got it. Because here again, that was kind of a necessity.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of your clients feel, or your listeners and clients feel like this, but as a coach and I schedule my clients, I live in fear of a sick kid or a snow day. And it does snow in Charlotte, North Carolina, if anybody's wondering. Not often, but at one flurry, the entire city shuts down. So, it's one of those things where there are situations, I think, and I believe that you are placed into for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons, there were bigger reasons why Danny was placed into our lives, but I think there's a subtitle or like a subplot that goes along with that. One of the reasons that Danny was placed into our lives is because it truly was a swift kick. I kind of needed to be like, you know what? We want to go to the next level with this business. This business is awesome. It's doing so much better than business number one, but let's take it to the next level. And that's maybe that little piece, that little kick in the hiney that you need to make it happen. Because I have a third child at home that really needs more time than my other two. And that's never going to change because we plan to be his forever home.
Right. Yeah. And then, it's also not a coincidence. And it's also not as unique as you might think that you became a parent at the same time as you started a business. Right. Because those two things, usually when we're ready for one, we're ready for the other. And usually we are, sorry for being blunt, but usually we're too stupid to realize how tough it's going to be.
Well, I think it's like they tell you, you don't worry, by the time you have baby number two, you'll forget about the labor from baby number one. No, actually, you kind of don't.
Yeah. Well, I did until my water broke and I actually felt, I'm like, oh, crap. That's right.
That's right. This is going to be painful.
Yikes. Oh, man. Can I stop? Can we just, no. Because I didn't I didn't do epidurals and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, man. Okay,
I was all about, what drugs do you have? And I'll take them all.
Here we go. Let's buckle down, baby. Let's get the music out. Let's figure this out again. All right. I got it.
Yes, exactly.
Here again.
Yes.
I had to get my head in the place. But we don't. I really did. I had to tell myself, that's it. You got yourself into this. Believe me, it'll be fine. It'll only be a few hours because my labors are really, really short. So that was fantastic. It'll only be a few hours. It'll be a few hard hours, but it'll be a few hours. We can get through a few hours.
Half your listeners just groaned because they're like me and they're like, my first labor was 18 hours.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm done within 6, easily within 6, usually actually around 4. But it's intense. It's an intense 4 hours for the entire intense 4 hours, but then it's done. So I just kept telling myself 4 hours, I can do this.
And then it's over. And that's over.
Then I'm done. And I got this little creature. So
this little bundle.
Yeah, that's all right. I can do it. It's, here again, wrap your head around it and you can do anything. But really the newborn stage and the startup stage, they're the same and they require the same energy, the same intensity, the same same love, the same care. They really, they just are the same. And I can't tell you how many of the 130 plus people that I've talked to have had the same experience, that they become parents at the same time as they become entrepreneurs. And you'll find, I'm sure, that your business, like you said, with Danny, did you say his name was?
Our nephew, yes. Danny.
Yes. When Danny came in, you'll find that the same stage that he was going through, or that your kids were going through at the time, that growth stage of the elementary school and all of that, and becoming a little more independent for your other two kids, your business had to do the same thing at the same time.
Yes.
So yeah, and until, who knows, hopefully the flying solo kind of idea that the exit strategy gives us with our kids, like I am with my 18-year-old, where I really don't, it's a privilege for me to make him a breakfast or a lunch, right? Or to have him sit down at the table with us and eat dinner with us, because usually he's at marching band practice, or he's, doing something for school. So, it's a privilege for me now to do those few things, but really he's on his own. And, I see him when he needs to come home, and when we get together as a family to do things. And hopefully your business reaches that before the next 10 years, which is when your kids will reach it. Hopefully it won't take as long, that maturity process, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So take us through, since you've had to scale your business and change it a bit, and with the addition of the third child, take us through your day, because it sounds like if you have to really be able to adapt daily to when you might need to change things around, you must be able to manipulate your schedule pretty well. So take me through a typical day for you.
So it's interesting. When there's two main points I think I would say, kind of like when I'm putting together a schedule for a kind of a typical day or a typical week. And to be honest, my weeks look very similar. My days look very similar. My weeks look very similar. There's a pattern on purpose. There's a very strong pattern on purpose to how I kind of run my business. But two things that I had to come to terms with. And one of them is I had to be willing to put in permanent boundaries. And so there just has to be some permanent boundaries, and there's permanent boundaries I could put into place that allowed for less, oh my gosh, I got to go, he's having a meltdown. We have very little of those nowadays, which is great.
But can I ask you real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you say permanent boundaries, are you talking about boundaries with your business or boundaries with your family, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So, and in that, and when I say permanent boundaries, I would say, so Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my business shuts down at 4 p.m. and I go get the kids from school.
Got it.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work a little bit later. I see most of my coaching clients on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I stack them in.
Right.
I start like at 7:30 in the morning, and I typically end around 5 or 6. And so there's a babysitter that's with our kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And, I don't see clients on Fridays. I try to have lunch at least once a month with the kids when they're in school. I try to have lunch with them once a month. But I let them be walkers after school, which is a really big deal to be a walker and not have to ride the bus home. And so, and so I just have some really strong permanent boundaries. And I do want to say this to your listeners who are like a year or two into their business, and I'm headed into my 4th year. So this looks a little different for me. This was a 3-year process to get here. I wanted these permanent boundaries not because we had Danny. I wanted these permanent boundaries because of Jacob and Mackenzie, and Danny just became another part of that.
Right.
So understanding and recognizing permanent boundaries and how can I make the money that I need to make, because I know a lot of folks run businesses and they're just an additional income to their family. I am as important from an income factor as my husband's income is. And so it takes both of us. And so when I looked at permanent boundaries, I couldn't cripple the business. Like, the business needed to make money, but I also needed to have some space, to be there for the kids, and obviously to be there for myself and my husband and pieces like that. So permanent boundaries was a really important thing. And I block my days on that. So I had a client call and they were like, hey, I can't make my session this week. Can we go next week? And she listed some day. And I was like, nope. Because that's not where it goes. And so, and most of my clients, I don't tell them, well, no, sometimes I'll tell my clients, I don't see clients on Mondays and Fridays. But most of the time I'm just like, I'm just really good at saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm already booked. It doesn't matter what I'm booked with. That's nobody's business.
That's right.
But I'm booked. So the permanent boundaries and the honoring that and setting it in stone. So to the listener who says, oh, I could do that, but then in the back of their mind, he or she is already saying, I just wouldn't follow it.
Right.
Let me say this. It did take me time to get there. I just started with not seeing clients on Fridays. And then I moved all my clients to 2.5 days a week. And then I said no clients on Mondays and Fridays. Like I took time, years, a couple of years to get there. So that was the first one. And the second one and I discovered this early on. With my coaching practice, 95% of my business comes from referrals. When your business is built around referrals and referral growth, and that's where your clients come from, there is no need for prospecting and networking and marketing and advertising and cold calling and all those things you don't want to do that take up so much time. When your business is built on referrals, you get time back.
Right.
And so really, if you look at my calendar, outside of seeing clients and doing training sessions and workshops and meeting with prospects that are already basically bought me because they were referred to me, I just need to meet with them and make sure we're a fit. That's all you're going to really find on my calendar. Now, of course, you'll find times when I set aside time to write, and I do a weekly tip that goes out every week on referral marketing. And so, you'll see blocks of time to write my blog post and to write that weekly tip, and of course, things like that on my calendar as well. But, I can do that really at any point, and I can do that sitting in my pajamas if I so choose. But, I think that when my business took a turn and I started building out a business where I noticed early on in 14 that 60% of my business was coming from referrals. And in 15, I got up to 80%. And now this year it's getting up to, 95%, that the time I spend in this business is less because I'm not doing all those things everybody else feels like they have to do, running around trying to build the pipeline. And I had clients who said, Stacey, it used to be really easy to get on your calendar. I mean, you would take me whenever because you needed clients. And now you're telling me if I don't say yes to the first and third Tuesday at 7 or the first and third Tuesday at 2 p.m. that there's no place for me. I'm like, yep. Yeah. And they're like, what happened? And I said, well, first of all, let's just acknowledge I'm good at what I do. No, I'm just kidding. I am, but I try to be
I acknowledge that.
Than that, right? But so I said, the demand is there. My calendar is full. My schedule is booked, and this is what I have available. And I'm always on a wait list now. I always run a few months in advance. I've raised my rates a number of times since I started. And before someone hears me say, oh my gosh, you must be so expensive. No, what that means is I was entirely too cheap in the beginning.
Exactly.
And I'm finally at a place where I should have been in the beginning. But, we all get there on our own time. And, I told my clients, I was like, listen, I have this referral strategy that I follow, and guess what? It works, and it works year over year. And I work less in my business finding new clients, which saves me a ton of time. And so my clients started saying, well, then teach me that. And I said, okay. And so as I started teaching my clients that, I had one personal injury attorney that I worked with who told somebody else who then shared it with me. And she said, I just think that you should know this, that this was said or whatever. And she was like, you have people who are saying you literally saved their practice. You literally saved their business by helping them with your referral strategy because you help them cultivate business in a way that honors them. And I believe you get referrals without asking. And that is why I'm different than 99% of all experts out there in referral marketing, because I don't believe you should be asking. There are things you should be doing. Asking is not one of them. And so when I started teaching this to my clients, I was like, you know what? This needs to be out there for more people, which is then, of course, why I put it online. And now anyone can access it. They don't have to talk to me or coach with me to get it, because I do know that there are a few key things I've put into place, and this referral strategy is probably the one that's made the biggest difference.
Yes, I agree 100%. And obviously we can talk about this strategy. And I think you have a link for us for that, don't you?
I do. What I would love to give for your listeners is I have found that there's a few common reasons why people don't get referrals, and it's called the 4 reasons you don't get referrals and what to do about it. And so it's a quick guide that they can, a PDF that they can download, and it'll kind of help them understand it. And then, of course, there's information on if they want to learn about the course, as well, the Growth by Referral course. But I will put that on a special page for your listeners. I'll put it on Growth by Referrals, and that's referrals with an S, but growth by referrals.com/power parents.
Perfect. Yes. Cause, Power Parents, we've talked to many people and we've talked about a lot of different business techniques, but really the majority of my clients as well come from referrals. if you work from that place, of doing the absolute best for the person in front of you, making sure they're a fit, making sure you can help them and make a difference in their life and their business, then of course they are your raving fan. But I'm sure you have some very specific things, and I can't wait to take a look at that as well. But thank you for that. So your day, okay, I have to go back to that because
Sure.
again, my ADD, I'm sure I have the entrepreneurial brain just like everybody else. I want to jump to the next thing, but go back to your day, and where do you fit in your exercise? Where do you fit in hanging out with the family? Do you guys all eat together?
Yes.
Tell me that.
Yeah, those are great questions. I do. So I'm typically up before anybody else in the house. And so I try to get a walk in the mornings. It's actually when I catch up on all my podcasts. So I try to get up. I typically am up between 6 and 6:30 and try to get a walk in. Then, some days I don't have to take a shower. Don't worry to all your listeners, I do, but I don't have to. And then the days I see clients, so the days I start at 7:30, sometimes I don't necessarily get a walk in, but I do. I try to get up. I try to get ready. The best piece of advice I ever received from somebody is if you want your mornings to go well, get yourself completely ready before your kids ever open their eyes.
Yeah.
And so my kids get up around 7:30 and I am there for sometimes I am gone, to be honest, if I have a client starts at 7:30 before they get up. Most of the time I'm there in the morning with them. But my husband I have an amazing relationship with my husband. And we made the decision, we got married that we're in it forever and we're going to fight for our marriage every day. And so we have a really great partnership. And so he really does the morning routine. So the kids are now at the age where they do make their own lunches. They can make their own breakfast unless it's like waffles or something that needs to be put in a toaster. And so, we build that self-sufficiency into our kids. We have what's called the morning six, and they cannot do anything else like play or anything until they've done their morning six. And so our mornings are just saying, have you finished your morning six? Oh, no, wait, let me go. Right. So it's just that. And the morning six, real quick, for the person who's like, what is that? The morning six is they had to have made their bed and opened their blinds. That's one. They had to have eaten breakfast. They had to drank all their water or milk. We have a problem with liquid consumption in our family. So they're great eaters. Yeah, I don't know why they won't drink their water or milk. So it's, have you made your bed and opened your blinds? 1. Have you eaten your breakfast? 2. Have you drank all your water or milk? 3. Have you gotten yourself dressed? 4. Have you brushed your teeth? 5. And now this year, since they can make their own lunches, it's number 6 is, have you made your lunch? And so, we really build that self-sufficiency into with our kids. They're on the bus by 8:30. Most of the time I'm already gone. Sometimes I'm not. Then I head to my office. My husband owns a restaurant and a food truck because one is never enough. So let's just have a second one on wheels, right?
Yeah, of course.
So then we're out for the day doing our work. Our kids are in a late start school, so they go like 9 to 4.
Okay.
And then, I am seeing clients or I'm doing whatever I'm doing within my business. And that's really what my day looks like. I shut it down at 4 a couple of days a week and I go get the kids and I hang with the other moms on our street and the kids are playing. Let me be honest. Sometimes I am checking email. I am human. Sometimes my email is way more interesting than what my kid is asking me or talking to me about.
Yes. Or another mom is talking about. Yeah, let's really be honest. Yeah,
definitely. So it's that. I mean, obviously, if we have an activity, then sometimes we're off to the activity. And we have a very strict rule in our house where our kids can do no more than one sport at a time.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't understand those parents who are like, my kid's in 4 different activities. And I'm like, you are 4 times crazy.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. And so, right now, I am the mom sometimes that people they look at me with that look and they're like, this is all going to come back to bite you in the rear one day. And I'm like, it may, and I'll be fine with it when it does. But I convinced my boys that they would be better baseball players in the spring if they took gymnastics in the fall.
Oh, there you go.
Because our daughter made this gymnastics team. And it's just easier for me to have them all at one place at one time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think they're gonna have great upper body strength, and this is what I keep telling myself when they go play baseball. And my daughter will play softball in the spring while the boys are playing baseball. And so that's kind of our rule is that we're home most nights as a family. My husband and I both have work late on Tuesdays, so that's my day. I work late. I'm sometimes not home until 7, 8, or 9 o'clock. I can go have drinks with a girlfriend. I can go get a massage. I can work late. I can go network. But Tuesday's my long day, and that's really and then other days we shut it down at 4. We're family time. don't bring my laptop home most nights. And if I do, I almost never open it. So it's all about being very productive during my day.
And making those boundaries, really,
Yes.
that's key. Thank you for that, because it's very true. And just about the gymnastics, they're not only going to have good upper body strength, they're going to have really good balance. They're going to have a really good understanding of the potential and ability of their bodies, because gymnastics really does give you that.
Yes. And they are in a boys class that just happens to be at the same time that
Yeah.
daughter is there.
Yeah.
So that makes it better. But yes, and other than, and then of course my kids are in a Bible study on Wednesday nights. And so when we look at kind of like when we're feeding what we're feeding into our kids mentally and emotionally, I think those are the good things. When we brought Danny into our family last year, we sat down and made up our Randall family values.
Yeah.
And that was key, and that helps guide all the decisions that we make. And so, when we put, like, one of our family values is, there's 5 of them, five people in the family, 5 family values. One of them is to be brave. And so I told the boys, I'm like, you're going to be brave when you go do this gymnastics.
Gymnastics, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, we do the same thing. It's strength and honor. And it looks like when both boys leave the house, Dad does this, I don't. It's a male thing. When both boys leave the house, it's almost like a fist pump. But that's his symbol to them as they're leaving, strength and honor. That's his symbol. It's not a fist pump like everybody thinks of it, but it's really strength and honor. You're going out into your day and go into it with the strength and the honor that you have. And that's
key.
Just like our businesses, isn't it? I mean, we have to have those same ideas. What's your purpose? What are your values? What are your goals? It just relates right back to that wonderful parenting thing. Yeah.
It's true. And there's one thing I always say to my kids, and I found and because everything to your point relates back to the business, I find myself saying it to myself for my business. And so there's one thing I say to them, it's always know who you are and know whose you are. So know who you are. You're a Randall.
Yeah.
And that means something, and that name means something. And I always tell Jake with McKinsey, and you've got a lot of Brown mixed in there too. So Mama's in there too, right? So, obviously my Brown Randall, right? Last name.
Right.
So I'm like, I tell my kids, I'm like, you are a Randall, and that means something, and there's honor in that, and don't ever forget that. So know who you are, and then I say, and know whose you are. First, your God's, and then your mommy and daddy's. Right. And so when I look at my business, sometimes when things get tough or I'm in over my head or, and running an online business plus a offline local face-to-face coaching practice, they operate entirely different.
Yes.
Sometimes I get in over my head. I'm like, and I have that fear and that self-doubt that starts creeping in. And I always tell myself, like, wait, first of all, who are you? And second of all, remember, you know whose you are as well.
Yeah.
So he's got this. Yeah. So you've got this.
Yeah. And that grounds you. It really brings you back to the center and back to get out of your head, right?
Yes.
And out of all those fears and that wonderful little amygdala back there. If you don't know what the amygdala is, guys, I've got a video on what that's talking about. So just message me. You know where to reach me. But that little thing back there going, oh my gosh, things are going to fall apart. The world's going to come to an end and all that stuff. Get out of that stuff. Get back to really what you know and whose you are, however you define that. And then you're okay.
Right.
Yay. Wow. All right. So Stacey, I have had a blast chatting with you, and I really do appreciate sharing all these lessons. It sounds, we could talk forever because I know we've had very similar circumstances, very similar situations, and learned very similar lessons. But that's the amazing part. We can take those similar lessons and they come from who we are. So no matter what, Power Parents, if you have a quote business that's the same as someone else's business, you are unique. You come at it from your unique perspective. Don't worry. There's enough out there. The people who relate to you will be drawn to you. So just stay true to that. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Perfectly said.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, Stacey. I really do appreciate it. I have a feeling we're going to have to invite you back so we can, talk about a few other things as well. Would that be okay?
Mary Catherine, that would be awesome. Thank you.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again. To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.